welcome to the third episode or whatever of our live stream podcast. I'm Ryan Hoblick with Late Apex Performance Coating. And it's Jake over here.
Yes, I am Jake. I own Turn 13 Motorsports.
So, Jake, why try to get the... Actually, if... why don't you go ahead and tell us what you got going on this week? Make sure to get into your mic some so we get some good volume.
Yeah. So, the best thing that happened this week was I installed a new pellet stove in my shop. And it is amazing.
Yeah, I was over there today. Very nice. Nice and warm, heated.
It's all digital, and I can program it on my phone, and it turns on and off on a schedule, and it's just so nice. I really enjoy being warm. I hate working in the cold, so I'm pretty stoked about that.
Trying to see if our... have a chat function that trying out to see if we can...
Get chat on the screen?
Yeah. So working on that. So anybody asks any questions that it'll pop up. So it's not just us answering random stuff and kind of not knowing what's going on. So
also, I was going to tell you earlier, but I was like, man, I should probably save that for the podcast so we have something to ramble about. I did buy another 3D printer.
Oh, really? What
Yes.
is it exactly?
It's a Bamboo Labs printer is which one it is the company. I think it's called X1C or X1 Carbon or something like that. X1 something or another.
Oh, very cool.
It's just a new one that has some cool features that some of my other ones didn't have, and does some of the stuff that like my industrial printer does, but much cheaper. But then I can use it for just like a little workhorse, like running out prototypes and stuff like that. But it's really, really cool. I mean, it's got some pretty cool technology into it. So far, I love it. It is extremely fast, like crazy fast. I printed a set of my stacks off just to print it on it, just to see how they came out and everything. And it was like 2.5 hours, I think, for the stack. And
wow.
Usually I'm, like with prototype stuff, I'm in kind of the 4+ hours for those things. And then on the actual, like, end product use, it's, like, closer to 6 hours on it. So this little booger just, it is fast.
That's pretty wild. Trying to figure things out here. Sorry, guys.
It's constant work in progress.
Yeah, I had everything going really nice earlier, and yeah, now that we're live, things always happen. Do we have any comments? No. So yeah, on my end, got finished up with some couple jobs this week. Those headers and stuff finished up. I got that XR frame of yours in stripped down, some other things stripped down. I got a couple other jobs that came in today. Yeah, so just working along, doing the thing. Thankfully, it's not freezing out.
It's pretty cold right now.
It is, but it's not. I don't have to turn my big heater on. So I do want to talk about, so try to have like a little bit of format to this instead of being all over the place. So up front, we're going to do kind of the business side, shop talk, see what we got going on. If there's anything like new and exciting we need to go over and kind of talk about between either of our businesses. And then we're going to go into a Q&A section, so we'll take some questions from everybody. After that, go into, bike, track, race talk stuff. Today, I think talk about a little bit about EICMA, some of the new bikes that are coming out, and then talk about some GP. And if anybody has any interest of like, track day stuff or questions about that, then we can get into that as well. So as far as on the business side, like I said, just normal work. If anybody has questions on particular processes or things that I offer or anything that Jake offers, feel free to shoot us a question. We'll get into a little bit more detail of what those things are. And just kind of, go over the process, or if you have questions about, for on my side, like what colors we offer, what colors I offer, distributors I use for powder coating, etc. I use 3 different distributors for powder coat. Well, actually, a couple more, but main 3 ones: Prismatic Powders, Columbia Coatings, and then the powder coat store. I have kind of favorites of certain things like satin blacks or gloss blacks because those are pretty standard, but other colors, some of them are kind of proprietary to particular distributors. So, and then all my Cerakote or ceramic coating, it's all Cerakote. So all the high temp stuff, whatever, everything comes from there. I know there's another distributor I was going to look into or try their stuff, but I've had, for the most part, pretty decent luck using Cerakote. So I've decided just keep using that stuff. So
It's funny because in 3D printing, obviously, you can have different colors and stuff.
yeah,
And it's kind of the same way. Like, I've found different, because everybody sells black and everybody sells green, and, but I found, like, colors and manufacturers that work really well. Like, they print really well. Like, there's no hiccups in it. They look good. They're spooled good. They're not tangled, all that good stuff. So yeah, we find the same thing like in printing. Like, oh yeah, I go with this guy, and I always go with them. And
yeah, I mean, once you find a product that works really well, certain color or type, that's what you stick with. And like every once in a while, a new black will come out or whatever, and I'll try to see if it lays a little bit better or looks a little bit better, and just to see. And if it's something that's worthwhile, I may end up switching to that. But I've been through 3 or 4 different gloss blacks. I mean, in the end product, they kind of look very similar, but in the application, some are a little bit better, some lay a little bit smoother, or when they flow out a little bit easier. No, Colby, the oven is not ready yet, but that's on the game plan. I'm probably just gonna, speaking of that, at some point here, probably in the next, I don't know, I would say month, I'm gonna dedicate to take like a week off of taking on any jobs to make sure I get it done, because it's been kicking my ass not having it done. So I'm gonna definitely for sure invest some time in that. I don't want to, and that's why I've been putting it off by because let's just do the work and we'll get to it eventually. But I just keep putting it off, and jobs keep coming in, and it ends up just getting put on the back burner for like about a year and a half now. So I really need to just get my ass in gear and do it. So I am going to do that. I'm going to take about a week and just dedicate it to just finishing that and getting it all up and running. So anything else there, Jake?
no, not really. I mean, I could talk about 3D printing stuff, but if anybody has any interest in it, I can talk about it for sure. But I don't really do the trinkets and action figures and masks and helmets and that kind of shit. So I usually don't really have too many worries with like what the color looks like and stuff. Like when you were talking about laying black, like how it looks and whatnot. Mine is more just about like how it prints and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So. Yeah, what's the particular material used for your like stacks and a lot of more like chemical resistant or structural stuff? Is what's the mixture on that or whatever?
Yeah, so pretty much anything I sell that's end use is a base of nylon. It's a nylon 12 with carbon fiber added to it. It's like a 20%, so it's a pretty robust product afterwards, but yeah, it's a base of nylon because nylon works really, really well. You know, nylon is used everywhere in the industry. Very, very chemical resistant. You know, anything petroleum, it's pretty much good against, and so you see it everywhere in the motorcycle and automotive industry and stuff. And then the only hiccup with nylon is it warps really bad. So sometimes it's hard to print with because it'll just want to kind of peel the edges up and do stuff like that. And adding that carbon fiber gives it a lot more rigidity, and so they print a lot better. And so now they've pretty much come with like carbon fiber everything. So you can get PETG with carbon fiber, you can get PLA with carbon fiber, you can get ABS with carbon fiber. You can get about everything with
What's
it.
the percentage of carbon fiber in that stuff?
Usually they're from like 5 to 20, 20 being like the highest. Like that's a lot.
So out of all the mixes, 20% is on the high end?
Yeah, 20% is going to be a really, really, like a really stiff product. Because the more carbon fiber you introduce into it, the harder it becomes to like
Actually
use the
print.
spool.
Yeah.
Right? Because like the more carbon fiber, the more brittle the spool is. And so like the stuff I have for my end use stuff, like you can take it between your fingers and do that, and it'll just snap it.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't bend. It doesn't, you know. Now the end use product has some flexibility to it. But yeah, just like the spool of it, I mean, you just push on it like that and you'll break it. When I first got it, you have to, when you load it, you have to feed about 2 foot of it in. And so you're just kind of like pushing on it, feeding it in. And I broke it a couple times because you're just
Really?
like pushing on it and you get a little too much and you start pushing and it kind of tweaks a little bit and then you just snap it. And so you wasted that, you know, 1.5 feet or whatever you had in there. So
That's kind of interesting.
yeah, and it's so expensive. You don't want to waste it.
What's the difference in price like between the normal stuff, which most people will print their trinkets and BS stuff versus what you use?
Yeah, so I mean it's like give or take probably about 10 times the cost. You know, so PLA is the easiest thing. It prints really easy. It's cheap. It's readily available, and that's what I do a lot of prototyping stuff in, just because it's very, very cheap. You know, you could pick up a spool of that, which is 1 kilogram, for $20, $25, somewhere in there. The end use stuff, the carbon fiber nylon that I use with the my industrial printer, like you have to buy it from them because like the spool has an RFID chip in it, and so it knows, you know, all that good stuff. It's pretty much $100 for half a kilogram. So 20 for a full kilogram or 100 for half a kilogram.
Wow.
Yeah, it gets pricey. So yeah, it's not fun to waste it.
Yeah, that's I have like kind of similar stuff with certain powders. You know, that's why anybody asks me, you know, well, what's it cost to powder coat set of wheels or valve covers, whatever, and it's like, well, what color are you looking for exactly? And you know, well, red or whatever it is, and you know, it's like, well, we'll have to like show you in person what it is because you know, certain colors, man, there's colors that are so typically, you know, let's say satin black is a pretty low cost color for the most part. It's maybe $13, $14 a pound. And you get into some of these illusions or there's a, what's it called? Like something universe, prismatic universe, where it's like a rainbow flake. That stuff's $50 a pound. So, you know, I do a set of motorcycle wheels, you know, I buy 2 pounds, no matter what it is. And then clear on top of that. So you're looking at, that's $100 in the prismatic universe. And then usually clear pound will, for the most part, cover it, maybe a little bit more. I always like to I always have a ton of clear on hand anyways, but just in case, you know, something happens or whatever it is. But, you know, clear that I use is $23 a pound. So, you know, if let's say I use 2 pounds of each, which is a little high, but if I do, you know, that's $150.
And don't you also like put a primer coat on stuff?
Certain things like steel for sure, 100%, especially if it's outdoor use. So some people, they, you know, I tried to go and do, well, it's just going to get it no matter what, and they're going to pay for it. Because in the end, the zinc primer really just kind of stops. It's a sacrificial barrier to make sure that, you know, any corrosion, rust, or anything like that that may start back up especially on really rusty parts, that it's not going to make its way through the powder, and the zinc kind of encapsulates that, or gives it that little sacrificial barrier. But, you know, if it's outside, 100% it's going to need it. Inside, yes and no. I mean, there still could be fluctuation in temperature and humidity and stuff that could affect it, but it's way less likely. But you know, I try to talk the customer into it, even on inside stuff, but on exterior things, it's not really an option. It's just, you know, I'm gonna do it because I want to make sure it lasts for you. And you know, everybody usually is like, oh yeah, it's great. You know,
so do you put that on aluminum wheels?
No, so you can't put zinc on aluminum. But I do have a epoxy primer. An epoxy primer you can use on steel or aluminum or really any metal, but it doesn't have the same properties as zinc does with steel. So epoxy is more for the aluminum to help with stop corrosion. I typically don't use it. Never really had any issues with that. And I've been doing it, you know, 10 whatever years, 15 years. So no, I never really used it. And I mean, if people want it, I'll offer it. If they are interested, that's fine. Sometimes I do use outgas forgiving primer, like a builder primer. And basically that's for anything that's like older cast pot metal, older cast aluminum, that old stuff like that. When you bake it, shit just comes out of the metal. And the stuff doesn't really always work. I'll say that. I mean, it's 50-50, but it's supposed to let you use this outgas primer, and it's supposed to basically plug those pores. So when you bake and you're doing your full cure, that, you know, it doesn't outgas through it, but it does. So, I mean, I outgas everything anyways, but those cast items, aluminum or, you know, rough cast aluminum, like most wheels are cast aluminum, but they don't really do that particularly. It's just older cast stuff, and especially cast iron and things like that. They'll really outgas. You know, I'll stick them in the oven and put them in there for, you know, 20 degrees over what the cure temp is going to be. And depending on how bad the part looks, just to begin with, I may leave it in there for half hour. I know guys that do it for like 5 hours just to make sure, because once you put the coating on it, start curing it, pull it out, it's like, Jesus Christ, it looks like shit. So it's just kind of preventative thing. But yeah, that primer will do that. I usually use the outgas build primer if there's repairs that need done, and it's almost like, you know, a high build primer for paint. Like you put it on there, and then it's sandable, so you can smooth it out and get rid of some defects and stuff. So, but yeah,
that's cool. But yeah, so like, I mean, you put a coat of primer on, and then you put a whatever on, you know, some satin black, and then you put a clear on, you've got $200. And
yeah, people don't really understand that. Like, I mean, satin black's not so much, I mean, because it's so cheap, but if you get into these illusions or dormant colors or some of these stuff, I mean, I can easily have just in a set of, you know, 17-inch motorcycle wheels, if I did use a primer and the clear or whatever, I mean, you could easily have a couple $100 in material, you know, and that doesn't include the electricity, the media I use for my blast cabinet, the chemical stripper I use, which is ultra expensive. So yeah, I mean, it just, everything, there's such a variation in price depending on the color that you are choosing. That's why I never just have a standard, you know, price for 17-inch wheels, blah, blah, blah. I mean, and if I did, it would be, 17-inch wheels range from this to this. And it'd be such a huge swing that people would be like, well, you know, what's the difference? So it's always just quote on the individual basis, you know, so.
Yeah. So Scott's asking, what's the smallest thing you'd powder coat? Like handlebar ends?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll powder coat anything. Small stuff, it doesn't matter.
A lot of people do, like, factory rear sets and stuff like that. And so,
yeah,
like,
do a lot of that stuff. So, I don't know, maybe 4 months ago, I decided, you know, I really need to have a shop minimum, because no matter what, to get the oven started and up to temp, it takes the same amount of time. You know, to do the cure schedule for a small part, it's going to take damn near the same amount of time. I'm still kicking on my blast cabinet, air compressor, using diesel because it runs off of diesel. I'm still going through these same processes, and it's, you know, in the end, the amount of energy I use and time I use and product I use, I mean, the product's less, and the time I spend blasting is less. But a lot of the energy used or diesel used is it still adds up. So
right, like you do all this for a $10, brake lever. It's like, wow, that wasn't worth it.
Right. And so I tend to want to do it's like $100 minimum, or I say if you're not in a rush, then if somebody is getting some stuff done and it is satin black, well, then I can reduce that cost because I'm going to do it at the same time. I'm not just firing up the oven to do one piece. You know what I mean?
I've done that with you. Like, I just throw stuff over here, and I'm like,
whenever,
do it when you do it.
Yep.
And
that helps out a lot because, it's just 2 more parts. I'm already shooting that color. So then they could be a little bit more cost effective for somebody. But, if it's something you need right now, well, then it's going to be $100, the shop minimum, just because, all these costs are still there. So,
yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, guys. So, like right now, open for basically Q&A. Ask any question you want. It could be, related to either my business or Jake's business or what we do, or something else. If you have, like I said, I coach up at Nelson Ledges, do some of that stuff. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to ask. Before we get into some of the other topics that we're going to get into, like the bikes at EICMA and stuff and all that jazz. So if you have any questions on powder coating or stacks or dyno tuning or
3D printing,
engine building, Cerakote, we're here. We're ready to answer questions. And in the meantime, while we kind of wait on people, if anybody has any questions, I can throw up. We went and we talked last week about the little YCF, and we had planned to go down this week to check it out. And I talked to Derek at Iron Pony about that bike. I was so curious about it because looking at it at photos and stuff, it has a very similar look to the Ovale or Abuchi, and honestly, like the NSF 100 and like the KOs, which are pretty much the same bike, they looked bigger only because I guess I've seen people on them and seen sat on them in person and stuff. So it was kind of like, man, that bike looks really small, and the bike looks small, and it just, I didn't know what it was going to be. So asking Derek, I said, hey man, what do you think size wise? He's like, oh, it's way bigger than an Oval, and it's, it's bigger than a KO, whatever. And so me and Jake went down there to check it out, but we'll get to that in a second because Matt's got a question.
Depends on the material, Matt. So like, I have a really large one that's, give or take about 14 inches, 15 inches, I think, X, Y, and Z. But it doesn't have an enclosure or anything like that, so I can't do like really big ABS or nylons or stuff that's prone to warping on that. I could do really big prototype stuff, basically. The enclosure ones, I have about 10 inches XYZ that I can do. And I can do that in any material, so ABS, polycarbonate, nylon, carbon fiber, so on and so forth.
All right. And so we'll continue on with the YCF thing until we get anybody else has any more questions. We'll stop kind of midway and answer those for you. But so we went down and checked those out today, and I'm gonna pop up a video on the screen if I can. This is gonna be a first because I tried it and hopefully it works out. But this should be Jake on this thing. So you can kind of see size-wise. And it looks small, but honestly, like,
It's not. It might look small, but you fit really well on it.
Yeah, ergonomically, it's like there's so much room on it. Like we were talking about, you know, comparable to like a Grom, right? Like, and I don't know. It's like it's got as much room as a Grom, but maybe a tad more. You know what I mean? Like, just because the way the bars are, there's actually a pretty big reach to.
So that's the biggest thing. Like seat to bar reach is huge. Like you're still a little tight on the pegs, and you need to be like they need to be tucked up there so you don't grind them. So that's a bit tight, but like the reach to the bars is huge. You're not cramped on it at all. I mean, given an average size person, right? I'm like 5'9", 5'10", maybe. I'm not 6'4", so.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting. He was trying to talk me into buying one.
I think so for sure.
The green one that is in the picture there is the 107, and then they had that was just the easiest one to get out. I mean, they're pretty much the same aside from the 107 or whatever. Well, I think it was the 107.
Yeah, I think so.
Didn't have the fully adjustable forks or shock. But the 190 that was beside it does. But physically, they look identical.
Yeah, like they had the same brake package on them and the same body work and all that stuff. It was just like an engine and suspension change. Same wheels on them, same calipers.
Tires, everything. Like, nothing was changed except essentially the motor and suspension.
It even looked like they all ran the same exhaust, too.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's that
it did.
same loop on it and exit. It's weird. The exhaust actually exits like at the front of the engine.
Front left, yeah.
Yeah, so it goes down, comes back, makes a 180, and then goes into a muffler and then side exits.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, and it's obviously to get a little bit that power out of it, torque and stuff. They didn't have the 150 there, which is probably what I would if I was going to buy one, what I'd be interested in, just for if I wanted to race it in OMRL, that the class. It would be a bigger class opening to do so instead of with the 190 or F1 you're stuck there. It's whatever. But yeah, I was talking to Thomas about it. He was over here earlier, and because he has the 2 KOs, and I was talking about it. He's like, "Man, I'm gonna have to go down and check it out." And I'm like, "I don't know if you should." Yeah, I was like, "Because if you see it, you'll want it." He's like, "Man, maybe I'll just sell my KOs and get one." I'm like,
I mean, he should, but like I didn't know how I'd feel about it, and then I got there and sat on them and checked them out, and I was kind of sold, and I was like, darn it.
Yeah, it's
because I just built a Mini this past summer, and I probably spent pretty much what I could have bought one of those for.
Yeah, the 190, right?
And now I'm like, darn it, I should have just bought this. This is sweet.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Like just looking at it before getting on it, like looking at it in person, it still looks just so small. But as soon as you get on it, you're like, man, it's just so much room. It's just not a lot underneath you, but like the physicality of being on it, like to be able to move around and stuff, it's perfect. Like I was kind of blown away by it. I wasn't expecting it to be as roomy as it was, but pretty cool. I don't know. Maybe I will end up with one. But
I hope so.
I don't know. We'll see.
They definitely surprised me.
And the quality, like the welds, swing arm, the chassis, everything was
everything looked good.
Very tidy. So it was, even though it's cheaper than an Oval, like the quality was right up there with the Ovales and stuff. And
they're not crazy either. Like the 190 or they call it the 187, right? But it's that was what, $5,000, $49.99.
Yep.
4,200 was the 150.
Yep.
And then 3,500 was the little guy.
Yeah, like $35.99 or $3,600.
Yeah.
So
they're really not bad. I mean, for a little over $4,000, you can have that 150. And the only thing we don't know, because they didn't have the 150 there, they only had the 190 versus the 110, is the suspension package. That's on the
it's the same. I looked it up when we were there. I brought it up on the phone to see, and
it has same as the 190.
Has the exact same suspension
that's
package.
Nice then,
so
yeah.
Just the small one, the 107, doesn't have the adjustable forks or shocks.
So yeah, I mean that 150 would be sweet.
Thomas, he's watching on YouTube. He said, you should buy the 150 so next year I could buy it off you when you sell it. Because he's bought like
yeah.
quite a few of my bikes. So, no, Thomas. How about you buy it and then I just ride it for free? That'll be, we'll trade off.
Either one of you can buy it just so I can work on it.
Yeah.
And I want to ride it too. Like I mean, they look cool, but you never know. You could get on it and it could just suck to ride. I mean, you don't really know until you ride it. But
yeah, like, and so basing off like riding the KO Thomas's, like I was comfortable on that, and I used to have an NSR 50 way back in the day, and I could ride that. But with that Bucci with the 10-inch wheel, which is still the same chassis size as the 12-inch, and similar to the Oval, it was, man, it killed my hands. I was super cramped. It's definitely not made for an adult to ride. Like, a MotoGP guy can do it because they're like, 4'6" or something.
They're all children anyways.
Yeah, but for an adult, like the YCF is built so an adult can fit on it and move around. It's would be kind of cool, and be interesting to see. But yeah, I don't know. I might want to ride one before, throwing money at it. But yeah. Any other questions from anybody?
I think Toby should buy one.
Toby, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't he just say screw it? He's not doing it anymore, or did he?
He's a little back and forth. He likes it. He loves it. He loves doing it and stuff. I think he just doesn't. Like, he had a really bad crash this past season on the 150 and really tore his shoulder up and everything like that. And, like, he had a lot of work to kind of get it back in shape and everything. And, I mean, he's in great shape. Like, he's in super good shape and everything like that. But, you just come off wrong and tore his shoulder up and, he obviously doesn't want to just keep beating himself up and killing himself just to ride mini bikes. You know?
I mean, I think the most jacked up I got was crashing on mini bikes, for sure. Like the crash I had on big bikes, were very much less severe. I don't know why. It just, whatever reason it is, it just it happens worse on the minis for me, I guess.
I haven't gotten hurt crashing anything, minis or big bikes, on a track. Now, I crashed my big bike on the street, and I almost died.
Yeah, well, I've not crashed at all on the street, so.
I had a really, really nasty one on the street. But on the tracks, like both minis and big bikes, I've crashed, obviously, but no injuries, really. I mean, you get banged up, you get bruises here and there, maybe get winded or something like that, but even when I tucked the front at NCM, it was enough to like go through my suit and went down to like the armor.
Yeah.
But that armor protected my shoulder and everything just fine.
Yeah, I mean, like I've had some lows. I've never had a high side, so not on a big bike. I had on a small bike, but like the most was like dislocating my shoulder, but it popped back in, so it was just sore.
Well, there you go.
And now it's bad forever, but. I did that too, like when I almost fell out of a tree and grabbed for a branch and did it there too. But, nothing like major, but, on the mini, just cut finger open, puncture the back of my leg, just dumb stuff. And, but on the big bike, it's been, knock on wood or whatever, been good so far. So,
man, some of those XRs that the guys are running though, they sit there and they grind the pegs the whole time, and they're like two little daggers sticking out. It is just sketchy.
Yeah, I never really got hurt on the XR. It was on the 150R, on the Bucci, and on my 250R. But all those I got hurt on. When me and my buddy Matt Folk, we both I don't know if I ever told you about this. Ask had NSR 50s, brand new.
Okay.
And they were 03s or whatever, but they were, it was, I don't know, 2010, 2011, I don't know. But they still had them brand new, never even had fluid in them. And one of our buddies was like, man, they got these bikes down there, I'm going to buy one. We got them for $1,500 a piece. So we all bought, us three bought whatever they had. Like I got the manual with it and everything.
Yeah.
And me and my buddy Matt were down at Circleville, and we were just, doing lap. And he's a little bit heavier than me, so he had to work a little bit harder, but he was, at that time, definitely a better rider. And whatever. I don't know exactly what happened, but we came out of the left before that back straight down the back. We're kind of down the hill. We came out of that, and the next thing you know, we're both on the ground. And it was either front or rear tire made a dent in my tank with the tread mark and everything. So it was like we were both jacked up pretty good. He got a concussion from it, and but yeah, that was a pretty wild crash. I didn't get hurt at all on that, but he had a concussion. We're like, Jesus, man.
The first time I rode minis, we went out to Circleville, and Andy let me ride his XR at the time. And it was still on the BT45s before they had the Kuzas. And, I mean, all I'd ever rode was, like, good tire big bikes, right?
Right.
So, like, I just have this different mindset of, like, how the bike feels going through a corner and stuff like that. I think I wrecked it 3 or 4 times that day. Just all low sides, like, in the corner. Because, I mean, anybody that's rode the XRs on the track know they're just absolute garbage.
Yeah, and you're on a tire that's like an inch and a half wide.
Yeah, it's horrible.
You really need to talk to Matt, because like, so when Matt was still racing and doing track stuff, I was like, dude, I had my 150R. I said, you need to come out. We're racing at Circleville. I'm like, you ride my 150R or take a bike, because I had the other pit bikes too. And he's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, I'll tell you what, you take the 150R because it's faster, and maybe you'll like it better. So he took the 150R out. He was just like, I'm like, really? You're not, like, zero fun. It's okay, but like, I just don't know. I don't get it. And I'm like, but I mean, like, you get out and race on, like, a 20 horsepower or 22 horsepower bike on a small track versus other bikes like that. It like, yeah, it's slow, but at such tight corners and tight spaces and very small track, it heightens the amount of excitement on it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and you can straight up just, like, bump people, Like,
yeah,
you just, like, shoulder people. And, like, Derek and I came together pretty hard, honestly, one time at Circleville. Like, I think he was going to bump me, and I was going to bump him at the same time. And so we came from, like, inner and outer of the track and just basically shouldered each other. And, I mean, it's pretty serious just, shoulder checking somebody. Like, they're just crazy. It's a whole different little thing in there.
Yeah, what's man, I always forget that dude's name. Your buddy that works at that machine shop.
Jacob.
We were racing at Circleville or G&J it's like one of the last times I raced with OMRL. We came in into turn 1, and he was on the outside, and it was like big. It was a pretty big group. It was F2, I think, and I just kept my line, and he was just boom riding in the grass and shit, and finally came back on. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's like 100% big bikes are better. I don't care what anybody says. It's more fun. Kent, minis are fun, but big bikes are mo fun. And OMRL went downhill since change of leadership. I'll say that. But when I first started doing OMRL, it was awesome. It was there was a pretty good construction of what was going on. The structure was there. It wasn't like grids like they were, now maybe are pretty big. I don't know. But when I started doing it, maybe like a year and a half, 2 years later, the grids kind of blew up pretty big. And I was surprised, like, well, we had to start splitting XR 100 class up because it got that large. It was like, okay, now we're going to do amateur and expert or whatever. But then change of management or whatever you want to say, and then some things change and whatever, and it just kind of got a little, I don't know. But it's still fun to go and rip a little bit on them, but you haven't had a mini in a while, so.
Minis are fun. I like them. I think I like building them more than I like actually riding them.
Well, you like building more than riding anything because you haven't.
I mean, there's an argument for that for sure.
You were out once this past year, right? Just on the mini, right? Or did you make it that time? You're trying to get the little mini together to go.
I didn't race, but I went out and practiced. Yeah, so I did go out there and ride it and everything, and it was fun. Yeah, because I just put it together and everything like that, and it's a pretty sweet build. Like that one's a really good one. It rips. But yeah, I mean, not much.
Yeah.
My extent of riding is like, okay, let me test ride a customer's bike. Yep. All right. Well, that's good.
All right. Well, any more questions from anybody? If not, we'll move on to EICMA and some of the new stuff that came out. I'm not a Honda guy, but that was one of the cooler things to see, the new CBR 600, even though it's, in reality, who knows where it's going to stack up. But, they're in the 21st century now with, getting the electronics package and all that cool stuff and increased horsepower. And then the HRC race kit's going to be available. So, maybe that'll be because no one runs those in Wira. Nobody really even rides them on a track day. And they're definitely not Moto America. Between, yeah. So, maybe we'll see them out in Moto America grid. Who knows? If they, make some power.
But you can see that it is going to be, I wouldn't say competitive, like it's going to be, podium runner. But, like, they've had that across seas, right? And, like, they've been running it over there, and people are running it with success. So
yeah, and they run like Alaman. I mean, that bike's they run it in Alaman all the time, and BSB and stuff. I don't know why the acceptance over here is. Maybe it's more expensive to get competitive or what, or with restrictions that we have. I don't know. But the other one is the new Fireblade. Would you say they did on that? I think they did
they did quite a few things. It doesn't it was. So they upped the compression. They changed the intake ports. They changed the gearing on it. They changed all the ratios. They said they changed every 1-6 ratio because it was geared extremely tall. Like the first year, you could probably go 300 mile an hour on it, and then the second year they changed the sprockets up for it. To try and help with that. But then this revision, like I said, they upped the compression, they changed the intake ports, changed the gearing and everything like that, changed the stacks in the airbox. And it makes 1 horsepower more, which is, nothing, but it comes on 500 RPM sooner. And so the curve is going to be a lot bigger. And that's what their aim was. It had no mid-range, and so it wouldn't get out of corners. And that was their aim, to bring that up. So hopefully... Oh, and they changed the arrow on it, too. So they put those wings on the front now. And they said it has the same downforce as, the integrated wings on the side of the fairings, just with less weight, because they just have a little tiny kind of wing package on it now.
Kent, what do you mean by potential contingency? What are you talking about exactly? With the Honda or what?
Because Honda's given no money in American racing forever. You can still get money from Yamaha and Cowie, and Suzuki, for going and running those and getting contingencies. But Honda, they give you absolutely nothing.
If you're still here, Kent, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't even. There's not a lot of bikes that do a lot of contingency, at least in, Weir and stuff. It's kind of few and far between. But yeah.
I know Suzuki was really good about.
Suzuki
was really good about contingencies for a while.
They were even so. One of my buddies who raced SV650, they were even if it was a fuel injected model, this is from, I think last year was the last year or the year before that. Everything before that, it didn't have to be a brand new model. As long as a fuel injected SV, it was contingency money there. So that's why he kept with the SVs instead of upgrading something else. But I don't know. I don't know if there is contingency out there for that or not. I guess we'll find out whenever, if they announce it or whatever. I guess they'll probably be on Honda or HRC's website or something. But I guess we'll find out, and that might push people to do that. But really, there's not a lot of contingency money on bikes, anyways, unless it's the absolute brand new model, which club racers they're not getting the newest shit out there, and so a lot of times it won't even relate contingency wise.
It'd be interesting to see though if the HRC kit and everything with that can bump it up to compete in Super Sport now. I mean, like I said, they have been using it, so it's got to. But I mean, we'll see if anybody will try it, like here in the States, because obviously Super Sport is a lot more horsepower than it was.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing cool that I saw, so I mean the RS 457 Aprilia had already been. I mean, everybody knows about it, but some photos I saw was like basically a decked out race one. It still had headlights, taillights, stuff, but it was already fitted with Spider rear sets, Spider top clamp, clip-ons, full exhaust, adjustable forks, Olin shock, all that stuff already done to it. So like that was one of the things I thought about buying one, and then working with Jake and then Matt Hollenbaugh to like try to develop some parts and stuff. But I mean, the bike's not even out. We're already behind. Like, how do you can't. It's hard to get in the market with stuff like that when, you know, Italy can just say, let me just see that thing, you know, your prototype and work with it. And, yeah, so I don't know if I'll end up doing that or not, but, yeah, that stuff's already out there. So that's kind of cool. Then,
the CB1000 finally got a redesign.
Oh, did it? I didn't see that.
Yeah, so they're calling it the Hornet now because they have like the Hornet 750 and now
Yep.
it's like the Hornet 1000. But yeah, so I mean it's been pretty garbage for a long time. Like the Gen 1 like CB1000 had the 0407 CBR 1000 engine in it, and then in like 14 or something like that they did a redesign on it and gave it a nice like a newer dash and, you know, headlight and all that good stuff, and they just modified that old engine still.
Okay.
So it's been like 2-gen CBR engines behind, and so this Hornet has the new, not the Triple R engine, but the SC77, the 17 plus CBR engine, which is really just kind of an upgrade of the SC59, the 08 to 16. Like it's essentially the same engine, just with better parts in it. Like you can interchange a lot of parts in them, but still, it's at least has an engine of a current gen bike now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
They didn't say what the power was, but I mean, I don't know, 150 or something like that at least. So it'll be in the market with like the Z1000 and the GSXS 1000. I mean, they're not going for like the, you know, V4 Street Fighter or the, you know, ZH2.
No, I mean they never were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But speaking of like the Ducati stuff, like they brought out another really expensive one-off, or not really one-off, but like special model. Have you seen that? So the V4, but it's basically like
like Panigale SP2.
it's a nod to the old 916. So with the foggy theme on it and stuff. So I mean, I'm sure that bike's going to be $42,000 or whatever because it has special numbered serial and you know, limited run and paint scheme, and that's crazy. Yeah,
actually, they were not to get off Ducati, but apparently I think they said 300 of them being made, but there's a carbon Triple R.
Oh, really?
Made. Yeah, but it wasn't really. I mean, it wasn't really anything fancy. I think it had like a carbon tank cover on it, and you know, it was painted black, and you know, that was really it. Like it was just kind of an aesthetic package there.
Yeah, I mean, that Ducati's been doing that forever. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, it's just the same bike, but with, I mean, I think it's cool that they offer that type of stuff, but it's just so wild that the price increase is like $6,000 for like this livery, and then, you know, a number of 100 run or 200 or 1,000, whatever it is. Just it's kind of crazy. But what's the did you see Bimota? They made, so you know, like the H2 motor they put in one of their bikes.
Yeah, so they have a joint with Cowie somehow.
Yeah, so they made an adventure tour with the H2 motor.
I saw that.
Dude, that's ridiculous. Who's gonna ride that?
I don't know. It's I mean, somebody's gonna buy it because they want to have, you know, that strong engine, but like that, you absolutely do not need anything like that at all.
No, for sure not.
But to be fair, like you don't need a V4 Street Fighter. Like, why do you need a naked bike that has 200 horsepower? Like, try going 180 with, you know, sitting up in the wind.
Because
Good luck.
Ducati, that's why.
Right. Or like the Multistrada RS.
Yeah, that's just cool. I don't care.
It's cool, but like, what do you need that for?
We got a question. So Omar, for noob track riders, Give some insight as a seasoned rider, track riding pointers, important focus points, common bad habits, mistakes. Tell me what I don't know. I don't know. So I've worked with Omar a little bit at Nelson, but I think it was maybe just one time, and then the other times you were working with some other guys because I was riding and coaching a different class. But so we talked a little bit about this on the first one, but we can get a little bit more into it. And you know, me and Jake agree on a couple things, and then we differ on a couple other things because he used to coach at Mid Ohio. So first is first. Like, if you're brand new to the track, and you know it depends. Like, so coming off the street to track, there's obviously, you know, there's a different focus in riding, but everything that you learn on the track translate back to the street makes you a better rider. But there's a lot of things that are just like people don't think about or whatever it may be on the track. And the first things first is just like get those basics down that maybe you think you know, but you don't. You know what I mean? Could just be setting up the controls to make sure they're in the right spot and comfortable. You know, you're not overextending off of the gas to get the brake, or, you know, being in an odd position, or, you know, you're squeezing the brake and where the lever travel position is, it's going to be too much to the bar or something like that, like out of adjustment, your foot pegs being in the wrong spot. You want it. You've seen it, Omar, about how that's to get set up. We can go through that another time, but you know, if they're too high and forward, or too high and back, or too low, whatever, it could cause you to cramp up and not, you know, be comfortable on the bike. So you want to set everything up to you first and make sure you're comfortable on the bike. Obviously, go through the bike, make sure everything's, you know, up to spec, good tires, brakes are good, all that stuff, nothing hanging off of it. So you have confidence in your machine, you're going to have confidence in yourself. So making sure the bike's good for you, and then, you know, making sure that the controls, everything's set up for you, and you feel comfortable on the bike, and just listen. You know what I mean? Doing your first track day and stuff, listen to what the coaches say, following those things, and taking things step by step. You know, every organization is a little bit different, but they kind of follow the same basic things of like, okay, we're going to do a lap where we're going to show you how to get on the track, how to get off the track. We're going to show you the race line, and then we're going to show you 2 alternative lines or whatever it is. That's basic first out type thing. The second one may be talking about, you know, body position or something like that. And, you know, I think body position could be for me like the last thing of the day, right? Because like,
100%.
you know,
like, people get way too hung up on it. Like, they think it's gonna make or break you. Like, go watch Mick Doohan race.
Yeah.
You know, like
there's something to it.
There's 100%
for lean
something
angle,
to it, but it's not something that like you need to worry about that's gonna make or break you. Like, when
yeah,
you're learning the
100%.
track. Like,
One of the biggest thing is keep your feet up off. You know, be on the ball of your feet, because people will drag their toes all the time. That's a huge habit from street riding that crosses over. And then, you know, riding over your head. Even if you're a novice, like a lot of people, like, oh, I'm lagging behind, and they're going to stab the gas to try to catch up, and then they're over braking, and you know, you get into these survival modes of like what to do. So those are just like survival reactions, or these things that pop up when you kind of are over your head a little bit and are kind of panic mode, and you know, you're braking too hard, or you're just doing something that you shouldn't. And most of the time, whatever you think's going on, you can do. Like, oh, I'm not going to make this corner. You 1,000% will, because
Yeah.
there's you know, intermediate and advanced are going 10,000 times faster than you. Also, you know, if something does happen on that first day, don't blame anything else but yourself. You know, unless you like run through oil or some shit like that, or somebody runs into you, the mistake was yours and yours alone. And you need to understand whatever that mistake was, realize it, and then fix that.
Accountability is so few and far between. Like, I've met maybe a handful of people on the track that will like crash and admit like, yeah, I messed that up. I did this. I did that. It's always something, you know, like, My tires were cold. There was a bump in the track. Somebody dropped something. This person ran into me. This person pushed me wide. Like, it's always something. Like, nobody can go, yeah, I went in there way too deep. Had to stand it up, drove into the gravel, and I fell over. Like, that's just what happened.
Yeah, I mean,
messed up.
There is some times where you honestly don't know what happened, and I've had that where, like, I'm in a corner and tuck the front or something. Like, I'm like, well, that just went away. Like, I don't know exactly what it was, but that's when you could kind of dissect it and say, okay, was I exceeding my limit of grip for the lean angle? Was I on the brake? Was I on the gas? You have to kind of dissect it down and say, and like, well, the tire was cold or whatever. Like, something you didn't work right. And if the tire was cold and you know that, well, then that's still your fault.
Yeah, like, even blaming a cold tire is like, okay, like, why was it cold?
Right.
Like, oh, well, it was the first session of the day, and I had it on the warmers for 10 minutes before I went out. Like,
yeah, so then
okay,
that you should probably take your time.
You probably can't blame your tire then, Like, it's not its fault, But two big things I see from street riders that's really bad. One, they use the rear brake a lot. You don't want to use the rear brake. Like, using the rear brake is good and it'll slow you down if you are very, very advanced. You're a very skilled rider, right? Like, you're using the rear brake from tip in to apex. You're not using the rear brake in other scenarios, right?
Yes, to keep the front down if you need to,
like,
on acceleration. But
if you're, yeah, definitely you can use the rear brake for wheelie control. But like, when you're braking, like if you're at Mid-Ohio and you're braking down the back straight, you shouldn't touch the rear brake because your rear tire should essentially be floating. Like, there's no weight on it. You have all the weight on the front of the bike. You're lifting it up. And so as soon as you go to touch the rear brake, it'll lock the tire. It'll start sliding, moving around on you. Like, just ignore the rear brake. And then also finishing corners. Like, so many people will round a corner and they'll, like, come from the outside, go to the apex, but then just keep really, really tight and try to stay, like, in that lane, so to speak, because you're used to riding in a lane. But that's not the case on a track. Like, the whole road is yours, so you go wide, you hit apex, and you drift down again. But so many people try to just stay super, super tight and finish that corner, and you're staying leaned over too far for too long.
So more so not finishing the corner, but using the entire racetrack, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I would say fixating, target fixating if it's someone in front of you or whatever. I've done that, ran off the track.
Fixating is one of those hard things to get by because you have to experience it to start to, like, figure out how to not do it.
For sure. That and not looking far enough up track. I mean, I still do it now. I catch myself doing it where you're looking 10 feet in front of you, and it comes really, really fast, right? So, but if you're looking way, way up track and looking through the corner, everything just slows down. So by the time you do your input, you're there. So, that's a big thing to focus on too, is just looking as far as you can in down track or in through the corner, which slows everything down. And, one of the little tidbits I tell everybody is to throw earplugs in as well, because especially when you're starting out, because it takes away some of that sense of speed. Like, obviously it's, it's better, less wind noise, and you don't hear the engine as much. But when you have those earplugs in, you're not hearing the revs or that wind noise, and it takes a little bit of that sense of speed down. And everybody that say, dude, you wear earplugs. They're like, no. I'm like, dude, throw some in. See, these are typically like, novice intermediate guys. I'm like, throw them in, tell me what you think. And they're like, that's made a big difference. Because, I mean, it does. It's just your brain's like...
I can't ride without earplugs now.
Oh, I can't either. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I get sound fatigued.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I'll feel more beat up if I wasn't wearing earplugs.
Yeah. And like, if I forget them and I go out, I'm like, son of a bitch, man. Like, it's so loud.
Well, just when we were talking about going to the mini track, I was asking around because I didn't have earplugs. I was like, guys, I need earplugs. Like, I'm only on a mini, but I still need earplugs. Somebody give me a set of earplugs. Yeah,
100%. And so, like, again, it's just starting out stuff. Like, once you get faster, then it's a whole nother set of tips and skill set things that, we can give you or whatever. But, those basic things of just, making sure you're looking through the corner, making sure that you're not riding tired, making mistakes, using the track, the entire track and stuff. And
yeah, a lot of people are like scared to get off track when they're tired. Like they're going to look bad or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if you blow a corner and then you blow another corner, like you're getting tired, you're starting to think about other stuff, like just pull off, just quit. Like
yeah, I mean 100% I do. If I'm wiped from like a day and we have another session or whatever, I'm like, it's not worth the, getting all my money's worth, because I could throw my bike down the track and, it's either thousands of dollars or maybe lost $30 in that whole thing. It's no big deal. But yeah, you get exhausted, man. It's like, one, you're definitely riding slower. And if you're not riding slower, well, then you're going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
So
that's what, like, that I noticed it the most. Like, if I was out there by myself, or just with some buddies or something like that, and I'd get tired, it was like, oh, okay, we'll just, pace back and keep going and finish the session out. But when I'd be out there, like, and, me and Mark would be playing or something like that, Mark would be playing with me.
Yeah,
I'd be, trying to keep up. But we'd be going and like 2-3 laps, and then it's like, oh, I blew a corner. Okay, focus up. And then like 3 corners later, it's like, oh, I blew another one. And then I blew the one after that. Like, okay, I'm exhausted. I can't keep up. All I'm going to do is crash if I continue this. So let's just back her off and drive her in.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And the other one is too, like, when you're just starting out in intermediate and stuff or whatever, where you're kind of more on your own, get time, or like second half of the day where you're free and novice, and you're like, oh, there's some guys that maybe have a little bit more skill than you or whatever, and you're like trying to maybe prove something to yourself or not look bad or whatever, and you're trying to chase them down, you get over your head real fucking quick. And I'm not immune to that. Like, even, running an advanced in on my little 660, and there was a MA guy there on 1,000. It wasn't Hayden. I don't even know. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was with Mark on a Gixxer. I think it was a 750 on one of the Disrupt bikes.
Is it Carl?
I don't know. This skinny, tall kid, like
blonde. Oh, Jake Lewis?
It may be. I don't know. But I was like, I was trying to follow him, and he passed me down the back straight. We get into 12-13, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to stay with him because it was a tight section, so I can carry the corner speed. I just got to carry it into 1.
Yeah.
And went under the bridge and kept going. And I'm like, okay, brake later. And finally I got on it, and I mean, it was just way too late. I grabbed way too much brake. The back came up. It started chirping back and forth. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm going off the track. I'm just looking at the grass, and I'm like, this ain't happening today. I reined it in and put it in the corner and said, I'm fucking coming in.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't, like, that's stupid. Like, why did I try to keep up with this dude? My skill set is not as good as him. I'm on a slower bike. This is stupid. Just settle it down or you're going to die.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to see what times they run this year
at
since they're back at Mid-O. Yeah. Because it's always kind of cool to, like, watch a race when you've been on that track, because you can kind of relate to it a little bit. And not really relate to it as in, like, yeah, I was there, I'm that good, but more like, wow, I was 13 seconds slower than these guys. Yeah. What are they doing?
And you feel like you were on the limit. Yeah.
But, like, if it was Jake Lewis, I've seen videos of Jake Lewis doing a 30 flat on an R6 at Mid-Ohio.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is wild. Like, most of the quick guys on thousands are like, 32 to 35. The fast guys on 600s are kind of in the 36, 38 range. And, the Moto A guys are 30 flats on a 600.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
It is. So it'll be really, really cool to see, like I said, this year, see what they do. But, I mean, Ben Spies has the record, and I think it was a 23.5. Like, I don't even know how you do that. That's just insane, a 23.5.
I don't know, man. Those things are like, as much as I know now about stuff, it's still like just blows my freaking mind. How much more, like, I've advanced quite a bit over my riding career, and I'm not even halfway fucking there.
Yeah.
And like, it's, I guess you could bring up another point for you, Omar, is like, just don't get down on yourself. Like, people advance in different progressions, and we went across that the other day about the send it people and the more careful people. But, like, even at the skill set I am, which is, quite a few steps above where you're at starting out and stuff, It's like I'm not even close to being a good fast guy. Like Mark Young is way faster than me, and he is not fast as, Gillum and these MA guys who aren't as fast as the Superbike guys, who aren't as fast as the GP guys. So there's just so much skill level to go up, and it's like I know I'll never reach it. So as long as you're out having fun and having a good time, then that's the main thing. You just don't get down on yourself, and if you want help, ask for it, and find somebody that can tow you along and give you some good pointers and help you out and help you make sure you have fun and you're being safe. So.
Yeah, it's probably been, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago or something like that. Ebe used to come out to Mid-Ohio and ride. And if you guys watch his videos, 650 Ebe, I dyno a lot of his bikes. We do dynos days and stuff like that. But anyways, he was up one time, and we were talking about Mid-Ohio and racing and stuff like that. And we were talking about Kyle Wyman for some reason. I don't know why. But he knew that I'd coached at Mid-Ohio because, like I said, he'd come up there and ride with us before. And he's like, so how would you do, like, in a race with them? Like, how close are you to being, like, with Kyle Wyman? And I'm like, we're not even, like, playing the same game. Like, it's just, like, we couldn't be further apart, basically. Like, there's zero competition there. Like, I couldn't hold a candle to his slowest lap. Like, it's just a whole nother level these guys are. It's unreal, like, what they can do on a bike. I mean, you can watch Josh Herron just being stupid out on the street, and he's doing stuff on the street being stupid that 90% of the guys at a track can't do, Like, he's sliding it through a corner or backing it into a corner on the street, and, 90% of the guys on track days can't even do that. So,
oh, for sure.
They're just so good. So good. But there's also a reason that they do it professionally.
This is very true.
They've all been riding forever, and it's a lot easier to go fast when that's all you do. And that might seem weird, but like with Ryan talking about coaching and stuff, like if you go out there and you spend the whole day in advance, like you're control riding in advanced, and you're just knocking out 110s at Nelson or whatever, you're just banging them out. And then the next day you go and you spend the entire day coaching novice. The next day you go back, you have to work back up to that pace in advance. Like, you'll go out there and you'll be like, yeah, I was killing it the other day. I was doing 110s every session, and you'll go do like 114s, 115s, and you'll be like, what the heck's happening? Like, I got to get back in the groove of this.
Oh, yeah.
And it takes you a little while to pick back up on speed, and so that's you'll never see, like, these pro guys out there just joyriding,
Oh, 100%.
They're going full bore the whole time.
Well, let's get into a little MotoGP this round, the Malaysia round.
Batista's wild carding.
Yeah, I don't think he'll do much. Honestly, I mean, Superbike's way different.
Honestly, I'm gonna give him a top 10.
I don't think so,
I'm
man.
gonna give him a top 10.
I don't think it's gonna happen, but we'll see. We'll see. I think he'll place above both of the Yamahas for sure. I mean, that's not difficult.
The only Japanese bike that will be in front of him is probably Mark, but we'll see. It just depends if he's having an okay weekend or not.
Of course, it could be completely changed, because if it rains, then it's going to be a big situation. And I thought it said, like, rain was expected for the weekend. So
I mean, that'd be cool. I love rain races more than anything.
Yeah,
it's just the great equalizer.
Yeah, I love seeing Oliveira and Bender and everybody up front just doing some wild shit.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see the guys that excel in it, but the biggest thing is it takes away the advantage, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like the Ducatis, they drive 300 mile an hour down the front straights. Like, that gets taken away in the rain, Like,
for sure.
Certain people are better, in corners than others. Certain bikes are better in corners than other. But you put rain or mist down there, and it's like, okay, how much are you willing to push? Do you, like, if it's a rain weekend, I can't imagine the thought process that would go through Pecco and Jorge's mind. Like,
dude,
you have to push to win, but as soon as you wreck, all the other guy has to do is back off 2 seconds.
So really the way it is, they'd be like, what is the other one doing? Like they just, as long as they stay close to each other, then it's cool. You know what I mean? Because like as long as they're within points, and it doesn't matter honestly who would finish in front. I mean, obviously you'd want to finish in front, but as long as if it's 8th, 9th, or 9th, 8th, or whatever it is, then then going into the next dry round, then you're good to go.
I just couldn't imagine, like, I couldn't imagine dealing with the pressure that they're dealing with just normal. Like, man, I could potentially win the championship here. Like, I can't mess up, but I got to push and win, and that'd be so much pressure. But add in the element of rain where it's like, okay, it's a lot easier to wreck now.
Yeah, and, not just yourself, but other people just sliding into you. There's always those chances of stuff. And, people understand that when the championship's on the line, they're going to try to be a little bit more respectful and stuff.
Most people are, yeah. Most people keep out of the contenders' way, except Gerloff.
That's true. Jacked up old top rack, but...
But, or was it 15, 16? Rossi and Marquez.
Oh, yeah.
The kick.
Yeah, they get a little spicy.
If nobody's seen that, go look up Rossi Marquez, the kick. It's
he has some nice choice words for him,
it's
too.
It's a good one.
They call him it's a fucking bastard.
Yeah. But Rossi, he went under Stoner and wrecked Stoner, right? When Stoner was like, well, your ambition outweighed your talent. I'm pretty sure he went under him.
I think
wrecked and took Stoner out. It happens. I mean, it happens to everybody.
Oh, well, it looks like, I'm just looking at this thing. It looks like, doesn't say what Espargo, but a bike. Oh, yeah, it was a Leish. Caught fire.
Well, of course it was, because...
At, 314 over there.
It's an Aprilia, so, like, why would it be good?
And it looks like Alex Marquez, during the first practice, he was the top of the leaderboard. Yeah, so, and then we talked about that earlier about there's a little nagging thing on Martin's shoulder where he got penalized, or he got a warning for low tire pressure. So if he is below tire pressure in the next 3 races or whatever, then he'll get penalized 3 seconds. So, if he gets first and gets penalized 3 seconds, God knows where that's going to put him. 10th? It just depends on how close it is. But so there's that other little factor there.
Really, really close. So yeah, I mean, you could lose a lot of places unless he rides like he's been riding and he's 6 seconds ahead of everybody. But you know.
And Anea, looks like Anea moved up to 4th in the first practice.
Oh, good for him.
Behind Martin. It says, the first 15 minutes, Bautista was second to Alex Marquez.
I'm telling
Interesting.
you, I'm giving him a top 10. I could see him crashing though, because I could see him going so hard, wanting to prove something, and then crashing. Because he's got nothing to lose. His championship is over. I mean, obviously you don't want to get hurt and like be recovering on the off season, but like really he has nothing to lose. He can go out there and just send it.
Crazy. It says
but
whether
it'd be a crazy state. Could you imagine if he podiumed? That would be wild.
It says weather forecast currently warn of an increasing risk of rain as the weekend goes on, rising to over 90% by lunchtime on Sunday.
So they'll probably do what they did at Phillip Island then, and they'll race Saturday and sprint Sunday.
There's always that option, yeah, but
it sucks because the sprint got canceled.
Yeah, exactly, and that's points on the table. I mean, yeah, nobody's getting them, but still, like that could be a big swing if one crashed out or whatever.
Well, especially since Martin's been the sprint favorite.
Yeah, he's probably hated that, not having that, but
yeah, you also have the argument that it's raining during the sprint, and so he's the sprint favorite in dry, right? So like in rain, he might not be ideal, but
it's true.
It's funny because you see the guys like you were saying, like Bender and Jack and them and Mark that are like they're just comfortable in bad conditions.
Oh yeah,
especially mixed. So like Mark is like a mixed condition. He's like Senna. Ayrton Senna back in the day in F1.
Yeah.
Like when it's mixed, like not full rain, but you're on slicks and it's getting a little wet out there. It's like he's like, cool. I like this, because he's like, I'll slide the bike, I'll do this, I'll do that. I'll be more confident than everybody else. So those mixed condition riders are crazy. But yeah, the guys that
But
just
also,
excel-
usually a lot of times, mixed condition riders or wet weather riders are the guys that have zero to lose because they have
a lot of them.
they
Yeah,
have
for
nothing
sure.
in the championship. You know what I mean? So that's why usually those guys kind of excel because they're willing to risk so much.
Yeah.
Because what do they have to lose? Like they could get a podium, or that's their fucking chance.
Like
you know what I mean?
Like with Frankie that stayed out like 10 extra laps.
Yeah. Actually, I just saw Frankie just recently, this because it just updated, second in the first practice now. He's right behind Alex.
Gosh, something's.
Yeah, it must be
It's
raining.
raining.
Yeah,
It's
it's
raining or
got to be
something.
raining, right?
Yeah, everybody wrecked. The whole field wrecked.
Yeah, it must have been the fire from Alicia's bike. Everybody else got off track and
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Frankie's awesome. Like he's a cool guy. Don't think we hate Frankie. It's just he's kind of the butt of every joke right now because he's on Yamaha. He's extremely slow on Yamaha.
Yeah, he's
and,
not-
Like, he's been open. Like I don't like this bike. I'm leaving this.
Yeah,
team.
but he's not pulling a Vinales where he's beating the shit out of it and over revving it and trashing. He's just like biding his time.
Yeah, and he's not really being very public, like complaining about it. Like when he's asked, he's
Right.
like, yeah, it's a garbage bike. It's not doing what I want. But he's not like on his Twitter like, oh, I hate this Yamaha.
Yeah.
Like if they'd give me a better bike, I'd be winning and stuff like that. Like he's just like, meh, whatever. I'll sit here and wait until I get on a Ducati.
So what are your thoughts? What's your predictions for the weekend between Pecco and or Martin, the Martinator?
So Martin is my guy right now, so I want him to win. So I'm gonna pull.
Well,
for
not
him to
one,
win.
but what do you think's gonna happen? I mean, so it looks like it's going to be a rain race.
Martin is going to get out in front no matter what it is. Rain, dry, doesn't matter. If it's rain, I'm worried because he's going to ride the same as he rides in the dry. He's going to try and get out in the front, and he's going to try to go really fast. And so he definitely has a chance to throw it. Pecco is going to be extremely slow if it's raining. We're talking like he's going to fall back to 10th. But he's not gonna wreck.
I don't think so, because like the last rain race they had, Pecco was better than he had been before in the rain. He got a little more confidence. And Martin, I agree with you, but at the same time, the last couple races progressively, he's gotten smarter. He's learned. So like getting so close to the championship, I don't think he's gonna risk as much unless he sees how big. Like if it's if there's a bigger chance for him to gain an excessive amount of points to push out a little bit extra, then yeah, maybe. But if it's, the conditions are really bad and,
I mean, if he's first,
him and Pecco are very.
I don't see him going ham. I see him racing Pecco.
Right.
But in the start of the race, like the first 2 laps, I don't think it matters where anybody is. He's going to jump out in front and he's going to go really fast. And then I think 2-3 laps is going to be that decider. Like, did Pecco fall back to 10th? We can chill out. Is Pecco still in second? Okay, well, we need to keep riding.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess we'll find out. I mean, we'll see what the weather looks like for qualifying, too, because that could be a huge situation.
Pecco's been struggling in qualifying.
It's not. Like, so, yes, he is and he isn't. But the problem is with Pecco is he, from Friday to Sunday, it's like start diddling with shit, getting on the track, getting feedback, adjust, doing this, and then it starts to come together. And then, like, in qualifying, it just barely starts to come together. Like, oh, well, shit, now you're in qualifying 1.
That's what I'm saying.
Instead
like,
of
he's been in
Q2.
Q1
But then
a
he'll
few
make
times.
it into Q2 because
Yeah.
they found a little something. And then, in the end, it's like, it just takes them all that time to progressively get to a point where the setting's good, where Martin doesn't mess with the bike, just rides it and whatever, where Pecco's doing a little bit more like, where can I just here to get the most out of it to get this advantage? So,
But still, even when Pecco goes through Q1 and he's 6th on the grid, that's still not good.
it's not good, but I'm just saying, like, you have to look at how his setup progresses from Friday to Sunday. It's usually, it just starts kind of shitty for some whatever reason, and then boom, by Sunday he's got it pretty much honed in where he's competitive.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just takes him a long time. I don't know if it's with his engineers or just him or whatever it is, but it takes him a long time to get to that setup that works. And unfortunately,
well, the bike's too good.
Sometimes
if the bike's too good, he's got to figure out like how to dumb it down, basically. You know.
Sometimes it does cost him qualifying, but you know, it just eventually on Sunday it gets there, and I mean, he's I just saw it was like, I don't forget how many years it was. It's been since somebody has went from wherever he was back on the grid, like what 14th to, was it 14th to first, like, or whatever it was the last time. It's been X amount of years. He's only like the fourth person in, I don't know, 15 years to do that.
Yeah.
To come back from whatever place in GP and win a race, whatever. So, aside from that, I sent you that link the other day. I don't know if you saw it, but the rule change for 2027.
The
850cc.
Yeah, the 850s. Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
I don't agree with it, but I'm not in the game, so like it doesn't matter what I think. But I'm sure they're doing it because they're just getting faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, and they keep adding aero and they keep going faster and faster.
Well, I wonder if it's that, and also because Dorna has this, you know, green initiative contract essentially where they're like, they have to start running like certain fuel too.
Well, I don't think so because Honda tested the manufactured fuel.
Yeah.
Like Mark ran it in a private test on their current RC213, and they said it was good. Like there wasn't any problems or anything with it. Like,
but did they say the consumption? It's like, because that could be a problem. Because like, yeah, maybe like E85 for instance. You know, you have to run so much more fueling to get that power.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of it. You know,
could be.
But I'm curious of if the top speeds will remain or if they'll just fucking tank.
I mean, they're gonna fall for sure because there's no, like, you're losing 150 cc's, right? They're gonna lose 20, maybe 25 horsepower.
But I wonder if they'll do some other things like, okay, well, then the minimum weight requirement or, you know, shit like that. There could be something else that comes along with that. So like, yeah, okay, we all agree to that, but there was probably some give and take, like we'll do that as long as we can back this off or, you know, give us more revs or whatever it may be.
You know, I was kind of just thinking about it here while we were talking about it, and I wonder if they're doing it so they have to balance aero more. Because they don't have to balance aero right now. They just shove all the aero they can get into it.
Yeah.
And they got 300 horsepower that'll drive through it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if you take them down in horsepower, then they might have to balance aero, where it's like, okay, Ducati's not running aero, so they're really, really fast in a straight line. But then they don't have aero, so they're not turning good. And Yamaha's back to turning good because they are running aero, but they're still slow in a straight line.
So that makes sense too. And then also maybe they saw like, God, dude, like Yamaha fell off. Honda fell off. What can we do to balance this but not look ridiculous?
I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like being too much in favor.
Because that does set everybody back to a playing field. Like, hey, guys, go redesign an engine.
Yeah, completely. From the ground up. Yeah.
Don't continue to, you know, work on what you've been doing for 10 years.
I think Ducati was the last one to agree to it, which I would be too. Be like, it took us this fucking long to get a bike that's this good. And now you're like, hey, in, you know, 3 more years, they need to start developing now.
Oh, yeah. They have.
But in 3 more years, you need that on the grid.
If they're not working on it now, they're screwed.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I'm curious of what, in 2027, what these fucking things will look like. Because to me, they're disgusting looking now. Like...
Yeah, but they're prototype bikes, right? So, like...
Yeah, but still, like, you know, before all the aero got way out of hand, the bikes still looked really good. They were better looking and different than a normal bike or, you know, anything.
I mean, it's almost like looking at like a GT3 class versus like a like an Indy car, right?
Yeah,
like the Indy car and F1 cars, like they are cars, but like they don't look like a car, right? But like a GT3 class car, like the Ferrari looks like a Ferrari. It's just decked out, but it looks like a Ferrari, right?
Yeah.
So
it's still they just, I don't know, they look weird and I mean, I understand everything's functional, but it's not as aesthetically pleasing as the older bikes were with no aero.
The Ducati and the KTM are pretty radical looking. The Aprilia is pretty radical looking, but not like too crazy. But then the Yamaha really doesn't look that far from a bike.
No, it's just that big front lip like they stole from Aprilia.
Yeah. But like when you look at the Ducati, it does. You're like, what is this thing?
Yeah, it's because they also know what
There's
they're doing,
boxes
and
and
everybody else are just like,
everywhere, and
well, they did that. Let's copy that and see if it
Yeah.
works, you know. But yeah,
no, I don't know. It'll be interesting. Like I said, just thinking about it right now, that could be what they're doing, like making them balance aero, because that would make sense if you start pulling power away.
100%.
Because
Yeah.
like Moto 2 hasn't went crazy on aero. You know?
Right, right.
And probably because they don't have enough horsepower to push through it.
Duh, 100%. And like, you know, they can't just stick the motor in the chassis because like the downforce, the aero package is going to be not as effective because they're not going to be able to accelerate that speed and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And it's such a ground up thing. I mean, that's just complete redesign. Chassis, everything, it's just all completely different.
Well, yeah, because they're going to be able to change the dimensions of it too.
Right, right.
You know?
Be a little bit more compact. I mean, not a ton, but, you know, enough.
I feel like that's a perfect opportunity though for everybody to jump on like the V4 bandwagon.
Oh, Yamaha
Right.
has to do it.
You've-
They have to.
You've got to redesign it. Just do it. Just bite the bullet and do it.
Yeah, and if you're, you know, I mean, Suzuki probably won't get back in it, but if you're another manufacturer, maybe like Kawasaki, it's the time to jump in.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead and do it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. So that'll be cool to see. I mean, it'll surely shake things up. I think Ducati will probably reign supreme until then. I mean, they just have such an
until then,
advantage
yeah,
now,
for
you know.
sure, for
But
sure.
unless Honda pulls something out of their ass, but that's the thing is like, how are you going to do that now?
Yeah.
When you have to start design on.
I mean, you could still totally like chassis work and aero work and all that stuff, but like you wouldn't want to go crazy and like engine investment, right? Because like, oh, you got two cells over there. Like, all right, these guys are working on the 24 engine, and these guys are working on the 850.
Well, Yamaha needs to. Like, they don't really have a freaking choice.
Yes and no. I mean, I feel like by the time they could actually push something out that was good, it'd be like, okay, well, cool, we're switching. So, because they're not bringing anything next year. And did you see Quattraro?
No.
He's like, I don't care what they say. Like, the bike is going to speak. And if it's what I want, then cool. And if it's not, I'm out. He's
Yeah,
like,
and
I
then
don't-
it'll be
I don't
every
care what
top
they say.
rider on a Ducati. That's it. A Ducati or KTM, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or maybe Aprilia. But I don't think either of those guys will leave Aprilia just because, like, they got it made. you
Yeah.
know?
And I don't see Aleix leaving because I feel like he's just going to want to finish his career there.
Yeah, true.
Because he's
I
probably
agree with
only
that.
got, I mean, 2 more years, maybe?
But, you know, that boy likes his Porsches.
Yeah, I saw that.
He's got a lot of Porsches.
Yeah,
He's
that.
rebuilding them. He's restoring shit. So like, if the money's there, he'll go wherever. You
So,
know,
that's all right. I'll keep riding. I'm sure he's built up quite enough money.
Yeah.
You know, to ride. Actually, I saw an interview with Mark talking about that, where he was basically like, you know, people have no idea what I'm making. Like there was numbers thrown around for Honda, but they weren't it. And people are saying that I'm riding for Gresini for free. I'm not riding for free.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with what I'm making, but
Yeah.
people don't know what I'm making.
for sure.
You know.
And they, I mean, obviously Gresini had to pay out some of that contract to get him out of it. That's got to be part of the
Yeah,
deal.
yeah,
Just
I
like
don't
when
know.
Honda's looking for people, that's part of it is they have to buy out some of that contract or whatever to get, if somebody was signed.
Yeah, but imagine the pocketbook that Honda has now
Yeah.
that Mark left.
That's true. Yeah.
They could pay the rider a quarter of what they paid
It's
Mark,
true.
and that would pay them more and buy their contract.
This is very true.
You know, they were just, you know, they said this 3 years ago. They were talking about this with Mark getting that, you know, the biggest contract in GP history. You know, 4 years at, you know, they were saying like 24 million euros or something like that, or
Jesus,
whatever.
man.
Like, but they were saying that like they're gonna pay Mark too much, and they're not gonna be able to afford to develop the bike the way they want to.
That's exactly what happened.
And then, I mean, we can't say that's what happened.
well, he
but
fell off, and then there was no development around him.
I think that's one of the big that's a bigger thing than, you know, them paying him is just he wasn't riding for 2 years.
Yeah, that
2+
and
years.
the bike was really developed around him.
Yeah, so everybody was just riding this piece of hot garbage.
Yeah, that they, and then no input from Mark to make it better or worse. So they were just kind of on their own, and yeah, things went to shit, obviously.
God bless Taka.
Yeah, so Taka. But yeah, so we'll interested to see how the weekend goes and what comes out from there, and then it should be exciting few rounds. Yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for Martin as well because he's just such a fucking angry beast, man. He's aggressive, and it's nice to see that out there. I mean, the technical riding is good and all, and it's smart, but it's just not as fun to watch.
Yeah.
And like he is just, man, it's another level, man.
I'm 50-50. Like I halfway want Martin to win because I like him, but I also halfway want him to win because I don't like Pecco, and I don't want Pecco to win.
Well,
but I've as the years go, I feel like I'm just like, okay, I don't want that guy to win again.
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
I didn't want Fabio to win again. I didn't want Pecco to win again. Like I just don't like. I really hate bandwagon people. Like the amount of fans right now that are gonna like pop up for Martin just because he's winning. You know, everybody's like,
sure.
"Oh, I love Martin. Yeah, he's so good." Like, oh yeah. Like when did you start liking him? 3 races ago?
Yeah, I mean, last year he was fun to watch, you know, and but Pecco he doesn't have that like outgoing personality. Like
he's outside the track, I don't like him.
Yeah, he's just very like I don't know, he keeps to himself type of thing. He won't put a foot wrong. He's not like that. He's just not that, you know, that Rossi or Marquez. Like Rossi's a super, super fun guy. Marquez is outspoken. He'll, you know, whatever. But like Pecco's very, you know, it's a job. I got to,
yeah, but he says some stupid stuff.
He does say some stupid shit, but like, you know, you got Martin is more like that outgoing dude like Fabio who likes to wear like
he's like a young playboy. Yeah, just like in it to have fun, and
that's what part of that is. Like that's what Rossi brought to it. That whole you know persona stuff, and that's cool. Like that's why Jack Miller's a blast to listen to, or Bender, Crutchlow.
Yeah,
you know.
Cal Crutchlow was the best to listen to. Like if Cal was on your team, man, I can't imagine like the PR guy that you had talking to him. Yeah. Like, listen, Cal. Just don't say anything that you would normally say. It doesn't matter what it is. Just don't talk like you normally would.
Yeah, it's but next year should be good with Acosta and some moves and stuff, and it's gonna be really changed up, and I'm really looking forward to next year. So, but
do you remember? Was it 2 years ago that was it Finetti that pulled that brake lever?
Yeah.
I remember they had an interview. Well, it had to be more than 2 years because it was Davi, too.
Yeah.
So they were talking to Davi. I don't know why Cal was there either, but it was Davi, Mark, and Cal that they were interviewing, and they were talking about it. And Davi and Mark are fighting in the championship, and so they were both, like, real political about it. Like, well, you know, we don't have all the answers, and the team needs to take care of it, and, you know, all this, blah, blah, blah. And it gets to Cal, and he's like, I'd fire his ass right now. I'd kick him right out of the paddock. It's like, yes.
Nice.
Yes, Cal.
Super fun. Awesome stuff.
Speak your mind.
Well, yeah, man. I think we're probably about wrapped up for tonight. I know you're dead tired, and I'm getting there too. We'll catch up next week for anybody who is interested in checking us out next week. And if you have questions, stuff, feel free to post up on the Facebook page or whatever to ask us some questions or topics if you want us to cover. You know, so we can check those out and give you some feedback and some answers and whatnot. But other than that, I think we're out. Good to go, Jake.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining us, everyone who did, and we'll talk to you guys later.
We'll see you.